Hello and welcome to Sport Business. I'm delighted in the run-up to the All-Ireland football final that we're joined today by Moy, Tyrone GAA club and former Tyrone All-Ireland finalist and indeed winner back in 2008, Colm Kavanagh. Colm, you're very welcome to Sport for Business.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
Now, you're here as an AIB GAA ambassador, and the campaign, which we've loved over the last number of years, has been the toughest. How tough has it been over the course of this season when every game was knockout and Tyrone have had to come through the always challenging area of Ulster and then out against Kerry last weekend?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster sort of year for it. Football probably at its best in terms of go back to the knockout with no backdoor, no qualifier system. So it's been an all or nothing sort of year with Tyrone. They've come through a massive amount of challenges around, there's some big games against Donegal and Monaghan, and ultimately, obviously, with Kerry and that. So look, they've definitely got the final, did it the hard way, and they've come through some battles. So there's been some fantastic football along the way, some very exciting football. A lot of games going to extra time and whatnot. So it's just been very exciting. I think it's been one of the best. It's definitely going to be one of the best championships to date.
Have you been able to watch it as a fan this time, and how different has that been? Because of course you were involved back in 2018 when you came down and played against Dublin. You took some part, at least, in the 2008 final as well, when you got your Celtic cross. But watching it from the sidelines, how different and difficult has that been for you?
I think last year was fairly difficult. Like in 2020, obviously the COVID year, I find it difficult to actually watch the games. I had obviously stepped away in that year, after the Dublin game in the league. I didn't actually return back to playing. So I find last year probably a bit more challenging. While this year, yes, I'd got asked to go back into the setup around December, January time this year. I had made peace probably with, that the fact that I wasn't going to go back and, that my time had effectively gone. And that was a big thing for me because, getting asked to go back into something like that is a fairly, in my eyes, still a very privileged position, given my age of 34. So, but I've really enjoyed, actually, to be honest, following Tyrone this year and watching probably the Kerry game at the weekend, especially. It's the first time ever probably that I've actually just got up and jumped off the seat a few times when McKenna scored the goals and whatnot. So it's been a bit of an adjustment period, I think, from last year, where I was sort of watching nearly a wee bit through gritted teeth and sort of I was a wee bit begrudging maybe nearly in a way. But this year I've been, to be honest, I'm happy to be a fan. I'm happy to be a supporter. It's just weird that I'm hoping to go back down. I didn't actually get to the semi-final or the Ulster final, so I'm hoping for the first time as a fan since probably 2006 to be at a Tyrone game as an actual fan and taking it in as an enjoyment piece, because it's definitely been a long time. I'm definitely out of my comfort zone in that regard.
I'd say hopefully as an All-Ireland winner and indeed working with AIB, you'll be all right for tickets for that. You didn't get down then for the semi-final. Were you watching it on the BBC or on RTE?
Would you believe it? I had a prior engagement with a stag party from one of my friends, so I had to watch it. I think it was actually on RTE. The guys were watching in one of the bars in Derry. So, it was strange. I'm sort of disappointed I didn't get down to the game, obviously, just because of commitments and that. But I definitely have found it strange watching the games to a certain degree, but very enjoyable experiences.
And I guess if you were watching it in a bar, you probably didn't. You probably only see rather than hear Pat Spillane kicking off against your brother for a variety of supposed misdemeanors.
Yeah, look, I suppose I've seen that probably afterwards more so. I know some people had said on social media, but what I just was reading on like Twitter or whatnot, that there had been a bit of a kick-off beforehand around the COVID and questions not answered and all that piece. And look, as I've said a number of times since that, the guys are entitled to their opinions on that, and but I just think it's fairly important, especially now that that's parked to the side, and the footballs should be the priority. And I'm sure from both Tyrone and Mayo perspective, they won't want that, rearing its head again in terms of, in advance of the final. So yeah, look, Pat and Sean are entitled to their jobs are there to make their opinions known, and rightly or wrongly. But I say it's not. I think it's just right at this stage, just right for parking that and focus. Let's focus on what two great teams are hopefully going to bring this in the final.
What's the atmosphere like up around the county? Because you went into the game against Kerry very much as underdogs, but any county will always believe that they've got a shot at it. So there'll always be confidence within the county boundaries and certainly within the camp as well. But now you're facing Mayo, back in an All Ireland final, no Dublin standing in the way, no Kerry now, thanks to you, standing in the way. Is there a sense of real excitement and anticipation that this could be the breakthrough first win in 13 years?
Yeah, look, I think there's been from a supporter point of view, yeah, I think there is. I think there's the emphasis now shifted from hope into more expectation nearly at this point, because like I spoke to a lot of Tyrone fans over the last number of months, and they were sort of thinking, if we can get an Ulster title, that'll be a good year for Tyrone and all. And now it's probably shifted to, well, there's no Dublin, we've beat Kerry. Tyrone should be nearly winning this All-Ireland. While I suppose from talking to the lads inside the circles, and what I probably believe for the last number of years with this setup and this team is that, like, we went out every year to win All Ireland. Like, we weren't going to make up numbers in an Ulster. So it's probably a twofold piece where the guys that are close to the setup and who have been part of the setup know that there's going to be, like I've been saying for the last 2-3 years, if there will be an All Ireland in Tyrone at some point. It's just whenever it actually happens. And I think now the supporters and the fans are starting to realise, actually that we could win this. While it probably, earlier on in the year, it was more, look, we might do okay. We might, especially I think a lot of people were drawn on the Kerry game, about how heavy a defeat they took, and sort of saying, look, there's no way that Tyrone team's going to come back and do anything in the championship. But that's, I suppose I always had that expectation that they would, because I've been part of the Tyrone teams that have got serious defeats down in Killarney for numbers of years. You go back through the history books, we've never done well down there. So I knew that there was something brewing nicely, and it nearly led into that sort of siege mentality after that game, that the guys are just going to try and do everything in their power to get over the line.
It was probably all part of some grand master plan that Brian Fergal had been happy to concede the 6 goals down there. Tell me something. You've been working in AIB now and long-term sponsors of the GAA, both club and county. What's the mood like? In the workplace as well. Is there much talk about it this year? Has it been very different because the crowds have only been gradually coming back into it?
Yeah, look, it's just been strange. It's just a strange sort of set. We're in uncharted territory at the moment in terms of that sort of. It's very hard to get excited. Like, I know from a personal perspective that was a big part of why I probably stepped away as well. That there was no fans and there was no real lead. Like, I suppose one of the biggest, it's an amateur sport. One of the biggest reasons for playing Gaelic football is going up and seeing the supporters and seeing what it means to them and whatnot. And that's been probably obviously it's been a very staggered approach this year, and it's great to see. Look, from chatting to the Tyrone lads after the semi-final, look, they would first to tell you that it was just unbelievable to have fans back again, and what that brings to what it brings to them in terms of giving them that lift, and then in terms of just the excitement and the buzz it sort of brings back to the county, that you can actually go and watch a game of football again. It's probably the small things that people are appreciating now, going like, we took this for granted for years, and now it really is the small things. Being able to attend a match is fairly important. So yeah, it's definitely been a strange sort of year in that regard, but hopefully we're coming to the, I'm not going to say the end, but we're in a position where we can manage things to the best of the abilities of where we're at.
It's great as well that it's back now in September for a couple of weeks, so that the schools can really get behind it. Have you noticed already, even though they're only going back in for the first couple of days and it's only 72 hours since the actual win, but will the schools across the county really sort of light up with this as well for the kids?
Massively so. I do revert back to, I remember 2008 and I remember 2018 in terms of, going in around the schools and whatnot and trying to sort of, create that buzz and that, like, and it's probably things that you don't really pick up on when you're playing about how much it means to other people, especially children, and how they're able to get in behind it. So I think that buzz will be now. It's obviously a quick lead in to the final. There's only a couple of weeks to it, so it'll be fairly quick to try and get anything planned around that. But obviously with COVID and that, I don't know what they can do. But being able to obviously try and schools are back, being able to try and actually bring up a bit of excitement back to the pupils and whatnot. It does. It's a nice feel and a nice touch. I just think it adds to the occasion for both the players and I suppose the kids. And I say you do, whenever you're part of a setup, you don't really think of them things in terms of what it means to people, and especially children and that, because you're just you're in a bubble. So, but I do think it'll be a fair bit of I can see the flags and the bunting going up around our local at the moment. So they're trying to create a bit of atmosphere as best they can.
It is a very special time, and then you'll be back into club championship, no doubt, after that as well. One last thing before we go, I can't let you go without asking you for a prediction. What do you think is going to happen?
I do think, and I have supported the Tyrone cause as such over even at the start of this year. I felt that there was an All Ireland in this team, and I'm going to stick by that. I do think that Tyrone have enough in terms of having experience that them defeats, as of Mayo obviously in All Ireland finals. But I think just given the personnel and sort of and the way things are going in Tyrone, it stacks up well for them. There's a few guys there that's going to create that sort of X factor on the day and can change the game. So I'll be rude not to stick with Tyrone in this and think that they can definitely get over the line. But I do think it's going to be a fairly intense, chaotic game. I think there'll be a bit of everything in it, and I think the fans will be in for a treat. So, but I'm going to stick with what I've been saying for months, and that Tyrone can take it.
Well done, you. I would have been surprised if you'd said anything else. Colm Kavanagh, you're a legend on the pitch. You've been great today with us here on Sport for Business. Thanks very much for taking the time.
Thank you.